Think about one specific moment in your life.
I want you to think about the one that felt like an absolute disaster, the one that felt like a profound loss, the end of the road. Maybe it was a breakup that left you staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning. Maybe it was a sudden layoff, a terrifying diagnosis, or a betrayal you never saw coming. Do you remember how much it hurt? Do you remember how it felt like your entire world had shattered into a million little pieces, and you were absolutely convinced it could never be put back together?
Now, I want you to be completely honest with yourself for a second.
If that exact moment had never happened, who would you be today? Chances are, you would be a completely different person. You would be a little less strong, a little less wise, a little less you. And right there is the paradox that flips everything upside down. Your hardest moments were never mistakes. They were teachers. They were the strictest, most brutally honest, and most desperately needed teachers you could have ever asked for.
Today, we are going to walk through an idea that has the power to completely rewire how you experience every single day of your life. We are going to move through 5 distinct stages. First, we'll look at why life is never actually chaos, even when it feels exactly like it. Second, we'll talk about the mirror of fate and how to actually look into it. Third, we'll break down why we suffer, and more importantly, how to stop. Fourth, we'll uncover what karma actually is, and trust me, it is not what you think it is. And fifth, the most vital stage of all. I'm saving that one for the very end, because without it, everything else we talk about is just pretty words floating in the air. We live our lives drowning in constant noise. Your phone lights up with notifications. The news cycle is screaming at you. Other people's opinions are everywhere. We are rushing. We are planning. We are agonizing over the future. And we are dragging around a heavy bag of regrets from the past. And inside all of that deafening noise, life just looks like chaos. It looks like a random, chaotic lottery of events crashing into us for absolutely no reason. Today you got lucky. Tomorrow you didn't. You met someone incredible, and then they walked away. You built a rock-solid plan, and the floor fell out from under you. And eventually, you hit a wall, and you have to ask, is there an actual point to any of this? Or is it all just random, messy, and totally blind? The ancient Zen masters had a brilliant way of answering this. They used to say that chaos is only visible to the person who is standing way too close. Take one step back, and you will see the architecture. Picture a tiny ant crawling across a printed page of a book. To the ant, the world is just a jagged terrain of rough paper fibers and massive pools of black ink. The ant doesn't see the letters. It certainly doesn't see the words. It has no concept of the story being told. But the story is there. The meaning is there. The ant is just standing too close to the ink. You and I are so often exactly like that ant. We stare right at the isolated events of our lives, the sharp pain, the heavy loss, the bitter disappointment, and we call it chaos. But if you just step back, if you allow time to do its quiet work, the entire landscape shifts. You start to see the hidden threads. You begin to understand exactly why that door had to slam shut, so you could walk down a different hallway. You stop seeing a random mess, and you start seeing a path. There is an old Eastern concept that speaks to this beautifully. It's the idea of invisible threads pulling the universe together. It's the belief that every single person you lock eyes with, every painful goodbye, every sudden detour in your journey, none of it is an accident. It is an unseen connection that was written into the fabric of reality long before you even arrived. When you start filtering your life through that lens, everything shifts. The person who broke your heart is no longer the villain of your story. They become a necessary instructor. The failure that brought you to your knees is no longer a dead end. It becomes the starting line. The thing you lost stops being a punishment and starts being a liberation. So here is something highly practical I want you to do right now. Grab a piece of paper, write down 3 specific events from your past that felt like total disasters at the time. Write them down, and right next to them, write out exactly what each one taught you. Write down the specific strength or perspective you gained from that fire, something you never would have had otherwise. Do this today. Don't put it off. Because the moment you physically map out that hidden order in your past, you will finally start trusting the order of your present. But here is where it gets fascinating. Even when people intellectually understand this, they still suffer. And the root of that suffering has absolutely nothing to do with the weather outside. It's entirely about the climate inside. There is a core philosophical truth that is deeply uncomfortable to swallow the first time you hear it. But once it clicks, you can never unsee it. The rule is this: the world is simply a mirror reflecting your internal state. Everything playing out on the external stage of your life is just an echo of what is happening in your own mind. If your life feels like constant, unmanageable chaos, it is because chaos is currently running the boardroom of your mind. If you are constantly surrounded by people who disrespect your boundaries, it is because you fundamentally do not value yourself. If the world feels like a hostile, dangerous place, it is because you are walking around wearing armor, treating everything as a threat. It is a deeply uncomfortable truth because it strips away your favorite excuse. It takes away your ability to blame everyone else. It is so incredibly easy to point the finger and say, "It's the economy, it's my boss, it's my ex, it's just my terrible luck." It requires immense courage to look at the mess and say, what I am looking at out there is actually just me. But that exact discomfort is the doorway to total freedom. Think about it. If the problem is out there, you are completely powerless. You are just a victim sitting in the waiting room of life, hoping the world decides to treat you better. But if the problem is inside you, you hold all the cards. You are infinitely powerful. You can change the entire game right this second, just by changing yourself. Think of an ancient warrior sitting in absolute silence, just moments before a massive battle. He wasn't out there mapping the terrain or stressing over the enemy's numbers. He was looking inward. He was hunting down his own internal fear. Because he understood that the enemy on the battlefield was just a physical manifestation of the enemy in his own mind. Conquer the inside, and the outside resolves itself. What does this actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon? The next time you feel your blood pressure spike, the next time someone irritates you, or a situation terrifies you, take your eyes off the external trigger. Look at your own reaction. Ask yourself, why is this hitting a nerve? Why is this specific thing making me so defensive? What is this revealing about my own insecurities rather than their flaws? These are heavy, difficult questions, but they are the exact questions that wake you up. When you stop wrestling with the world and start working on yourself, the world around you begins to transform. Quietly, slowly, but absolutely inevitably. Because the reflection in the mirror has no choice but to change when the person standing in front of it changes. Now we need to talk about the trap. It's the most common trap there is, and even people who read philosophy all day long fall right into it. The ancient texts tell us something incredibly straightforward. Suffering does not come from pain. It doesn't come from losing your job or going through a breakup or facing a hardship. Suffering comes from your attachment to how you think things should be. We walk around clutching this rigid blueprint in our minds.
We have the perfect timeline for our career, the flawless vision of our relationship, the exact way our Tuesday is supposed to go. And the second reality deviates from that blueprint, we fall apart. We don't suffer because life is objectively terrible. We suffer because we refuse to let go of our imaginary script. There is an old story about a man who lost absolutely everything. His home burned down, his business collapsed, his friends scattered. He dragged himself to a wise elder and screamed, "Why is life so relentlessly cruel?" The elder looked at him calmly and said, "Life isn't cruel at all. It is simply showing you that you were holding on to things you no longer needed." That is a hard pill to swallow, but the power in that perspective is staggering. We usually don't lose things because the universe is punishing us. We lose things because it is time to clear the room. We have to empty the space for something new, something better, something that actually fits who we are becoming. But in the moment, we are completely blind to that. We just stare at the empty space and weep. You have probably seen that breathtaking style of Japanese pottery where a shattered bowl is glued back together, but instead of trying to hide the cracks, the artist fills them with pure gold. The philosophy behind it is brilliant. They believe that something that has been broken and put back together is infinitely more beautiful and infinitely more valuable than something that has never taken a hit. Your scars are not character flaws. Your baggage is not a defect. It is the gold of your lived experience. Every single loss you navigated, every betrayal you survived, every time you face-planted and forced yourself back up, that is the gold in your cracks. It didn't make you damaged. It made you a masterpiece. Here is your practice for today. Think of that one thing you are still dragging behind you. The relationship that ended years ago, the missed promotion, the friend who walked away. Take a deep breath and say one sentence out loud. It made room. It made room for something new. Say it a few times. Let it sink in until you physically feel your shoulders drop and your chest open up. Letting go is not throwing in the towel. Letting go is the ultimate flex of human strength, which brings us to something that is horribly misunderstood in modern culture. We need to talk about karma. Everyone throws the word karma around, but almost nobody uses it right. We treat karma like a cosmic Santa Claus. We think if we put a quarter in the good deed machine, a good reward will pop out. We think there is an accountant in the sky keeping a ledger of who cut us off in traffic so they can get a flat tire tomorrow. That is not what karma is. The true meaning of karma is much deeper and much more grounded. Karma simply means cause and effect. It is the fundamental law of reality that says, every single thought you entertain, every word you speak, every action you take leaves a footprint. And those footprints pave the road you are about to walk down. It's not magic. It's not a divine punishment. It is just how human wiring works. If you constantly marinate in anxious thoughts, you will naturally seek out and magnetize situations that validate your anxiety. If you walk into a room assuming everyone is out to get you, your defensive body language will make people treat you like a threat. If you keep your heart locked in a vault, you will walk right past the people who are desperately trying to love you. This isn't mystical nonsense. This is neuroscience. This is basic psychology. This is the raw logic of being alive. We only see what we are actively looking for. We attract exactly what we broadcast. We build the house we live in using the bricks of our own perception. Think of it like planting a garden. You plant a thought, you harvest an action. You plant an action, you harvest a habit. You plant a habit, you harvest a character. And your character becomes your destiny.
It all traces back to a single thought. So, practically speaking, what do you do with that if you hate the movie playing on the screen of your life? Stop yelling at the screen and go change the projector. Don't wait for the economy to shift or your partner to apologize. Change the thoughts you are entertaining. Change the energy you are bringing into the room. Change the broadcast. Try this for just 1 hour today. For the next 60 minutes, become a bouncer at the door of your own mind. Every time a negative, cynical, or fearful thought tries to get in, don't fight it. Just notice it. And ask yourself, is this thought building me up or tearing me down? Is this the seed I actually want to plant in my garden? Just the act of watching your thoughts will change the trajectory of your day. You can't fix a leak in the roof if you refuse to look at the ceiling. And now we arrive at the fifth stage, the anchor. The one piece of the puzzle without which everything I just said is just a nice podcast episode you'll forget by tomorrow. There is a massive difference between a smart person and a wise person. A smart person hears everything we just talked about and nods. They say, "Wow, that's incredibly deep. That makes total logical sense." And then they wake up tomorrow and run on the exact same hamster wheel they did yesterday. A wise person does the one thing the smart person refuses to do. The wise person trusts. I'm not talking about blind, naive, toxic positivity, where you pretend everything is fine while the house is on fire. I am talking about a bone-deep trust. The kind of trust the earth has for the winter. The soil doesn't know for a fact that spring is coming. It doesn't feel the warmth of the sun. All it feels is the freezing cold, the heavy snow, and the bitter darkness. But the earth does not fight the winter. It completely surrenders to it. And because it rests and accepts the freeze when the spring finally breaks, the ground is ready to explode with life. Trust is a highly active state. It does not mean sitting on your couch waiting for the universe to direct deposit your dream life. Trust means showing up. It means doing the absolute best you can with the tools you have and then completely releasing your grip on the outcome. It means walking into the fog without needing to see the destination. The great philosophers always pointed out that real peace isn't finding a beach with no wind. Real peace is standing dead center in the middle of a hurricane and remaining completely still inside. That kind of unshakable peace only comes from one place, the deep conviction that whatever is happening exactly as it needs to. Not how you mapped it out on your vision board, not how you demanded it happen, but exactly how it is supposed to. So how do you actually find that level of trust when your heart is breaking, when your bank account is empty, when the walls are closing in? There is only one way. You look at the scoreboard. You look backwards. Look back at every single time in your life you thought the world was ending. And look at what happened next. You survived. You adapted. You became more resilient. The water always found a way down the mountain. Every time you were suffocating, you eventually caught your breath. Every time you were trapped in a maze, you eventually found the exit door. Every time you lost something precious, you eventually stumbled into something profoundly meaningful. That is your proof. You don't need a philosopher to tell you this. Your own heartbeat is the proof. You have survived 100% of your bad days. You are sitting here right now, breathing, listening to my voice, which means life has always been quietly working in your favor, even when it felt like it was trying to destroy you. Lean into that. Trust your own track record. Let me leave you with this. Picture an old gardener walking out into his yard at dawn. He doesn't look at the entire landscape. He walks up and looks at a single flower, a single leaf,
a single drop of dew clinging to a petal.
One day, a young neighbor asks him, "You've been tending this same piece of dirt for 40 years. You know every inch of it. Why do you still stare at it so closely?" The old man smiles and says, "I am not looking at the yard. I am looking at today. This flower is not the flower that was here yesterday. This drop of water has never existed before, and it will evaporate and never exist again. If I try to look at the whole garden, I will completely miss the moment." And that right there is the whole game. That is the secret. Life is not some massive, complex puzzle you need to solve. Life is just one fleeting moment stacked on top of another. It's one breath, one sip of coffee, one drop of dew. The meaning of it all isn't waiting for you at the finish line when you retire. You aren't going to suddenly figure it out 10 years from now. The meaning is right here, right now, in this exact second. Nothing that has brought you to this moment was a mistake. Every person who crossed your path left a necessary mark. Every crushing loss cleared the room for who you are right now. Everything that is challenging you today is forging the version of you that tomorrow requires. Trust the process. Keep walking forward. Pay attention to the details. And be aggressively grateful for the hard stuff. Because the hard stuff is where they hide the gold. Do me a favor right now. Drop down into the comments and write one single word. Just one. Whatever word is sitting heavy in your chest after listening to this. Gratitude, exhaustion, hope, peace, grief. It doesn't matter what it is, just be completely honest. Because the second you give a name to what you are feeling, it immediately loses its power over you. And if this conversation shifted your perspective even a fraction of an inch, hit the subscribe button. Don't do it for the algorithm. Do it for the next step on your own journey. We have a lot more of these quiet, honest walks to take together. Thank you for being here with me until the very end. I promise you that wasn't an accident either. When I reflect on this profound message, I am struck by how universal our quiet struggles truly are. We spend so much of our time running from the pain of shattered expectations, convinced that our scars make us broken instead of beautifully human. But looking at life through this lens changes absolutely everything, teaching us that the heaviest losses are actually the exact forces shaping our greatest strengths. I believe that true freedom begins the moment we stop pointing fingers at the outside world and start sweeping the floors of our own minds. It is incredibly liberating to realize that our external chaos is just a mirror reflecting our internal storms, begging us to finally pay attention. By taking responsibility for the energy we broadcast, we step out of the victim role and reclaim the author's pen to our own destiny. Karma is not a cosmic judge waiting to punish you. It is simply the garden that grows from the seeds of your daily thoughts and actions. This realization brings a profound sense of peace, reminding us that we can always plant something new starting right now. Letting go of how we thought our lives should look is the ultimate act of courage, clearing the stage for the beauty of what is actually here. Every single heartbreak and detour you have survived was not a punishment, but a necessary shedding of old skin so you could grow into who you are today. Trusting this process does not mean giving up. It means standing tall in the center of the hurricane with absolute faith in your own resilience. Your own track record of surviving every bad day you have ever faced is all the proof you need that the universe is subtly working in your favor. Realizing that life is just a sequence of fleeting, ordinary moments allows us to finally breathe and appreciate the dewdrop on the petal of today. Ultimately, our shared humanity is forged in the fires of these hardships, binding us together in a tapestry of shared empathy, grace, and unbreakable hope. If we can simply learn to be aggressively grateful for the hard stuff, we will uncover the hidden gold that transforms a challenging existence into an absolute masterpiece. The views and opinions expressed in this audio reflect personal perspectives and are intended for informational, inspirational, and educational purposes only. They do not constitute professional psychological, medical, financial, or legal advice. Listeners should consult with qualified professionals for any personal issues, mental health concerns, or major life decisions. The creator assumes no responsibility or liability for any actions taken based on the content of this message.